what happens when you get on this path is that you think that you're sort of in charge of your life. You think that you're doing... I remember reading Carl Jung's great line when he said that at the same moment you are the protagonist in your own life and you're making choices. There's also a paradox. He said that at that very same moment you are also the spear carrier or the extra in a much larger drama. He said he put it this way, which is really the ultimate paradox. You are doomed to make choices. So there's really sort of a self-canceling statement in there. If you're making choices, how could all the choices be made? I talked to Ram Dass about this, and he said it's the reason for the smirk on the face of the Buddha. If you can get that paradox figured out, that yes, indeed, you do have a free will, and you are making choices, and they're all being made for you all at the same time, like living with those opposites and cleaving those, that dichotomy. It's a very powerful notion. But what happens is that you get on this path and you start moving along. I didn't really want to take the time to face 500 empty pages again because I don't write books like most people do. They all come right out of inside of you. I don't go to the library, spend a lot of time looking up what other people have said about it and then putting it in different words. It comes out of my consciousness somehow. It became very evident that I was to write about this thing called miracles, about creating miracles. What I have written about and what I'm sharing with you here today is exactly what I am doing here on this stage right now. It is something that I'm going to ask you to take a real hard look at in just an hour's time or so. How can you surrender and let go and become detached from the outcome and the stuff that you seek after in your life? How can you do that and still have the things that you want come into your life? How does that paradox work? One of the things that I have learned in my own speaking is to let go of the outcome, to be unconcerned with the reaction and what's in it for me. Indeed, to just surrender. In my meditation before I speak, I always repeat the mantra endlessly over and over again. I find myself doing this more and more in my life, and something that I urge you to do. I ask the question, how may I serve? Just how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? There are 1,000 people there. How may I serve them? It's like getting the focus off of what's in it for me. How do I look? Whether I say the right thing, whether people like what I say, whether they buy things that I have or whatever. Instead, like letting all that go, just letting it make up and getting the focus of your life, the centeredness of your life on this business of serving. The irony of it is that when you begin to get to that point where you're able to do it and let go of that outcome, all of the stuff that you chased after and worked so hard for that you figured you had to have begins to chase after you and show up in your life. You are no longer on the treadmill. It's like surrendering. That's what I do when I come on stage. It's almost as if God says to me, as long as you stay on purpose, you will never stumble and you'll know what to say. When you get off of that and you shift your alignment away from that, then you won't be able to do what you're doing. The same thing happened in the writing of this real magic. For the first time in my life, I experienced what I have come to call automatic writing. I left home and went off to Maui. I sat down and in 8 weeks' time just produced this book without any struggle whatsoever. Not one moment of struggle. It just seemed to be there and it seemed to flow. I can type. When I sit down and type a letter or a contract or anything that I might have to put out on a typewriter, I'm one of these kinds of typists. I just look around. I can do it rather quickly, but I have never had formal training in typing. When I write at this little typewriter, I can go along and close my eyes and write at 70 and 80 words a minute. When you get into that automatic, I can't. I can't tell you how I do that. It just happens. My wife will walk by where I'm writing because I have my own little place. She can tell when I'm writing and when I'm just resting. She says, the typewriter must have been smoking. You were going so fast. It was like that for 8 weeks of time, just because I had completely let go. I wasn't concerned with whether the editors liked it, how it came out, whether or not it was a bestseller, whether people were going to buy it, or whether the reviews were good or bad. It's a very peaceful place that I'm asking you to look at and get to in your own life. Just before I left for Australia a couple of weeks ago, I was on a show on CNN called Sonia Live. Sonia and I went to school together, and we've been friends forever. We sat down to do the interview, and she said to me, Wayne Dyer, it says here that you haven't had a cold in 15 years. She said, now I've known you for a long time, but frankly, I don't believe that. Oh, that's Sonia. That's the way she works. That's fine. I love Sonia. There was a time when if somebody said that to me on national television, I would say, well, wait a minute, I'm going to defend myself now. I got into that position of I'm going to call my doctor right now or whatever, and then start defending myself. When you get to be free, you don't need to defend yourself. You just have this knowing, like, next question. There's no anxiety about it. There was no, I don't care if millions of people are watching. It doesn't make any difference. I'm not attached to any of that. It's like, I know. I know that I don't get those things, and it's fine if you don't believe it. You don't have to. I'm not living my life for that reason. It's like being self-referred rather than object-referred. I can do the same thing even with criticism. I now get letters of criticism, which everyone does. I even tell my own children over and over again when they worry about their reputation, I say, forget your reputation. It's not located in you. You go out and give a talk to 1,000 people. You leave, you have 1,000 reputations. What am I going to do? Follow every one of you home and ask, did you like me? Did you think I was all right? What did you think? They say, I think great. Sometimes the guy's got more hair than Bernie. So I'm going to say, well, maybe he favors you. You can't be consumed with that. I say the only thing I tell my children is, forget about your reputation because it's not located in you. And if it's not located in you, let it go. Don't be attached to that. But you can be concerned with your character, who you are, and just be that and get your life on purpose. Now, I must say to you very frankly that I wasn't always this way, particularly about criticism. When I used to get letters of criticism from people, I sent them a free book or flowers. I don't find myself needing to defend myself. I didn't always do that. For 10 years after I wrote Your Erroneous Zones and Pulling Your Own Strings, I used to have a form letter that I would send to anybody who wrote me a nasty letter. Then I would just sign my name at the bottom. I got it from H.L. Mencken, who was a great satirist of the early part of this century. He had this wonderful line. I thought it was a great idea. So I would write this letter. It said, I am sitting here in the smallest room in my house with your letter in front of me. Soon that will be behind me. And then I would sign my name. So I must not still be in the place I'd like to be because I still find that kind of funny, you know. But I stopped doing that a few years back. So this surrendering process is really crucial. And what I'm going to ask you to do is see that I am in the process.